our March volunteer update. Welcome to all of you. And today we are very fortunate to have Mariel Goss with us. And we all know Mariel as being one of the feisty ladies who pioneered the Sanibel bike paths. And also she is one of our remarkable women of Sanibel and Captiva. So Mariel, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for listening to me blab away and for doing what you do. I'd like to introduce my daughter, who just happens to be in town, and that's Leslie.
Now, who were your partners in crime?
My partners in crime were, first of all, let's see, Grace Whitehead, who's her husband was Porter's boss in the agency way back. And so that's sort of one of the reasons we came down. They found us a house. We told them to come here because it was a great place to retire. They did. And she never had a driver's license, never drove a car. Her only mode of transportation was a bicycle. So she was certainly number one. Number two was Sherry Vartal, who had her children and worried about them. And number three was Julie Barber, whose husband was the director or whatever of Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. He was the manager up there. And they had two boys who were two of my boys' best friends. So they wanted to ride their bikes and get to see each other. And so
this was in what year? In
1973.
1973. What was it?
72, 73.
What was it like here at that time?
Well, it's funny. I was just trying to think back, and as you came across the causeway, and you get to the end, and you go left, the only commercial part down there was the Seahorse Shop, which was the Galt's, Mary Lee. And then as you started coming up Island, there was the Ann Holtz gas station. You'd hit the Bailey House. And then there was no Jerry's, no Tahitian Gardens, no, Periwinkle was maybe just starting within, yeah.
And so you kind of went through that tunnel of trees and of Australian pine.
It was a tunnel, and it was Australian pines.
And down to Bailey's then.
And
down to Bailey's. What caused all of this to begin to take place, the whole bike path system? What?
I think what worried us most, and poor Grace lived down off Lingren and had to get up to Bailey's, is the dump trucks and the cement mixers, and they don't care about bikes. You know, out of my way. They're bigger. That and the danger, and then wouldn't this be a great idea to make Sanibel more, get rid of some of the cars, and maybe people would get on their bikes, and we had no idea what we'd look at it today.
Right. Now I read where some of the dump trucks and all of this, they were going 60 miles an hour.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, it was really something.
I mean, right down, they could care less.
Right. And then where did this idea come from that maybe you could build a bike path system?
It came from one of the potluck suppers at the community house, and this woman, Lou Borchers, said, just talked to my daughter on the phone, and she said they just built a fabulous bike path from Mount Vernon into the city. And I thought, ooh, that sounds pretty good. And so I talked to my buddies and said, how about let's start this and see what we can get going.
So when you said, how about starting this? Does this sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? You know, we've all been here before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How did you go about starting this? What did you do?
First of all, had to go to the county. And here I am. I think I was a 33-year-old Yankee woman. It was 73, and they were all men. And they didn't particularly take kindly to some little whippersnapper saying, you know, we need a bike path. What's a bike path? You know, why do you need it? You expect us to give you money on an island where you have to pay to get to? No. So that was that. So then I go to the state
and
get the exact same reaction.
Okay.
So I said, okay, ladies, it's up to us. We have to raise some money. So we started.
And what's the first thing you did?
First thing we did was, I think, the telephone book. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. But when we got here, you had to thumb through the big Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, whatever phone book. And that was, I said, we need a nice little Sanibel Captiva phone book. So I literally sat at my dining room table, poor Leslie remembers, going through all the 472 numbers. And we made this telephone book and we sold it.
So did you like sell it at Bailey's, or did you have this?
We sell it everywhere we could.
Everywhere you could. Okay.
Computers and before spreadsheets. They did it manually.
How many names did you have in that telephone?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know.
And what did you sell these phone books for? What was?
I think $2,
$2.
$2.50 maybe.
Okay.
It might have gone up to $2.50.
And so it was handwritten.
No,
Oh, wait,
it was all
you had it-
printed.
you
we
had it all
we
printed,
had cover
okay.
and printed.
Okay.
And I've been looking for one. I'll try and find one and give it
Okay,
to the
great.
museum.
Oh, we would love to
And did
have
you
that.
say it was for the bike path?
I'm sure in the inside it did. Yeah.
Everybody did.
Oh, and there are other things we did. Well, yeah. And then
Well-
we had little jars everywhere.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, because that is, what was your saying on that?
Give us your feet. Because we figured out that it was $2 per foot of bike path that we needed. So it was lend us your feet. So we did that.
Is that like, you formed your 501c3 though, right?
Yes, oh, we did. Oh, I was,
Yes, so you gals were, these were knowledgeable women, okay? So they formed their 501c3, and then what did you call, what was the name
the
of it?
Sanibel Bike Path Committee.
Okay, and then there was you four ladies, and were there other people involved?
Oh, and then as people came to the island, like Judy Workman and Star Thomas, and, more and more, and got bigger and more people.
Sure,
And
sure. So you started off with the phone directory, and then what were some of your other fundraisers with the mason jars too? I know that was.
Oh, yeah, mason
Yeah,
jars. And then Adelaide Bailey made T-shirts for us, which were wonderful. It said Sanibel Bike Path, and she gave us the profit from the sales of those.
I read too that you had a rodeo, a bike rodeo.
We had a bike rodeo at Bailey's.
Yes.
We had a race. They closed Periwinkle, and we had a race from the causeway up to Bailey's. And honestly, 2 seconds after we heard that it started, Mark McQuaid had come across the finish line.
Gleason's brother.
Yeah, Gleason's brother.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's a straight line. It took him 2 seconds.
Then you had a lot. It took a while for second, third, and fourth. And then when you had your rodeo, what kind of things did you have in your bike rodeo?
Oh gosh, I can't even remember.
Just-
Leslie, can you remember?
We set up cones, and we did just like the rodeo you would see in town with ponies. Going around cones and picking things up. It was fun.
And so did they pay to enter? Is that how you made your?
It was just to get publicity, I think.
Okay,
Mostly.
okay. And talking about publicity, how did you get the big publicity?
The big publicity. I waited till my husband was, I don't know where he was, but he was off island away. And we staged sort of a bike-in, I don't know what. And there were more of us then. There must have been 15, 20 of us. We said, okay, if they won't pay attention to us, bikes have every bit as much, allowed on the road as anybody else, as any car. So they can't do anything, and we'll just ride down the center of the right-hand lane. We didn't go in the middle of the road, we just rode right down the center of the right-hand lane. It took about, I think we started maybe at the trailer park and didn't get terribly far before, and the policeman came right up and said, "What do you think you're doing?" And I said, "Well, we have every much right on this road as you have." And anyway, we got some publicity.
Neat.
We did not get arrested.
And then shortly thereafter, you went back to the county, because this is still, Sanibel's not a city yet, is it?
Oh, no.
No, we're talking pre-1974, probably 73, not 74 yet. So we're still under the county guys. We have to ask them for money, and they're supposed to support us. But when you went to the county, you thought at one time that you were going to get the revenues from the tolls,
tolls,
right? And why did they say no to that?
Well,
They just weren't, they wanted
who
us.
needs a bike path? We don't have bike. I mean, they didn't ever heard of a bike path.
So what was your big
Doesn't-
breakthrough in getting this?
The city.
The city?
If it hadn't been for the city, we'd probably still be raising money for it. But once we had the city, then they were all behind it.
Okay, and then how did they get funds for it? Just by, they just allotted funds for
They
it?
allotted funds, which was great. And so then we started the clearing to see what we first of all had to go. And it was hard because it was a beautiful canopy of Australian pine. And I had to go knock on people's door and say, can we put the bike path through here? And I remember I was so terrified because I had to go see Uncle Clarence Rutland. And I'd never met him, and I was terrified. And I said, hi, I'm Mariel Goss. And hey, come on in. Oh, he just couldn't have been sweeter. He said, sure, go ahead. And that was one down. And then I had a lot of people said, you can't take down any Australian pine. They're so beautiful. But we had to.
You had to do it. And then the first part of the bike path was from where to where?
It was just periwinkle.
It was just periwinkle. And but before you got the money from the city, I thought maybe on your own you raised about $53,000, didn't you? Something like that with all.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something. I mean, we're talking 72, and with T-shirts and rodeos and things like that. Everybody in this room has been a fundraiser, and we know how hard it is. Yeah, it really is. So that is really something.
Can I ask a question about Perry? You said Periwinkle is from the Causeway Road
To Bailey's.
Bay, or did it go east?
Tip Tarpon Bay.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing.
You started and just finished it all the way from the causeway up to?
Up to Tarpon Bay.
How long did it?
What year?
That was after the city. Then
So
it,
probably 75,
so
76.
we had to clear it first, which was, I mean, really funny. And I don't know whether you've heard stories of George Campbell, a wonderful man that lived on Sanibel, who was a little different. And we were out clearing. He had a big machete and whack, whack, whack. And he went, here, taste it. And I said, eat it. Come on, eat it. All right. It was a heart of palm.
Oh my
because
gosh.
which I'd never seen, which was sort of cool.
Because you got a lot of local people to help clear
Oh,
the land.
absolutely.
Yes.
And my father-in-law had the worst case of poison ivy. He had to go to the emergency room and get a shot. It was just, but we had everybody. It was a whole community effort. It wasn't just us. It was everybody. Everybody out there, everybody helping.
Did you have anybody that was, a little group that was opposing it, just like with the Causeway? I know there was kind of a name.
I don't think they dared.
Okay, they didn't dare. I like the attitude. I like the attitude. Right.
Was there a proper opening, like ribbon cutting and a big hullabaloo when you opened it?
I think we did.
Well, didn't you have the blessing of the bike path or something like that? I heard.
I think, and there's so many things. I know at one point, I thought periwinkle way. So we had a great planting of, let's put periwinkle all along the divider between the road, and wouldn't that be just gorgeous? And so we were out there with our trowels and planting periwinkle. Very sheepishly, Al Minch, who was then sort of helping out as city manager, came up and said, Mariel, I had all that soil treated so nothing would grow there.
This is after you'd planted everything. Well, those, it's just kind of how it is,
Yeah.
It just is kind of how it is. So then, after the initial bike path was built, how long was it before, like, there was a bike path from Lingren down to the
Oh, it was
lighthouse?
great. Once the city, I mean, we sort of let the city go, and they were wonderful. Started all the way up Island and down to the.
Well, that, I think it's a major draw to Sanibel is our bike
Oh,
path system. Yes.
And I think it's kept it a family place.
Oh, it has.
You know,
it has.
Gosh, you see all the families with
Oh, right.
children
right,
all the way
right.
down. I just love it.
Cute stories you may have, or some stories you may have along the way when you had to really talk people into things, or when you were going to, you know, to get all geared up to go to talk to county commissioners or whatever that way. Did anything that really comes to mind?
So long ago. What I was thinking is this ancient history or modern history.
Well, and they had this thing too, is because there's always, you know, the environmental aspect of Sanibel.
Yeah.
And you had a slogan: preserve, protect,
Protect
and
and
paddle. Yes.
That's right. I'd forgotten. Thank you.
Had that.
That was
so-
that was our motto.
Right. So the environmentalists really couldn't be upset with you wanting to build a bike path,
Yeah.
because you were really looking out for the environment and everything as you did it.
Oh, thank you. You've got better notes than I.
No, I just am so fascinated by this, Muriel, because for you to undertake, and you with your friends, and those of us that have been on the island, I've had the good fortune of living here almost 17 years, and know that we have had different causes along the way. And when you band together, the momentum is really something.
Oh,
and this
absolutely.
is just a great story of how this whole community has benefited, because you and your buddies had an idea and you were not going to take a no for it. That is what is just outstanding. And did Ruth Hunter, I read someplace where she contributed, did she help out with any of the rodeos or anything like that? Or
The only thing is
she wrote a check?
writing a check
Okay.
that came from her.
Pirates Playhouse? Or
Yes, but I think she did. This is also fundraising for whatever, anti-Planned Parenthood, which
Okay.
was her big thing.
Okay.
But gave us a little portion.
Okay. And Porter was also an actor, wasn't he?
He
And-
was in
Yes.
my best nightie, my nightgown. He was Mercury.
Okay.
And,
Okay. Well, we heard a story that he had been in that play and he was leaving and he had his Tin Man costume on or something like that. I don't know, whatever his costume was. And he was walking back to a car or something like that, and somebody stopped to ask him directions, and he just gave directions, and these people didn't even flinch when and he was still dressed in his costume. And the story goes it was Tin Man, but it could have been something else that he was
I hope
playing.
it wasn't his nightie.
Yeah. Maybe he was Mercury or something, you know, it could be that. But anyway, they just tell the story that, you know, when people came to the island, they didn't really know what they were gonna, you know, find. Do you know, and again, going back to the early 70s, can you tell us a little bit more about, like, when Sanibel was really trying to get organized to become a city and all? And I know Porter and Don Whitehead started the Island Reporter, and the purpose of that was so we would have a newspaper here on the island that was edited by people of the island, because before that all of our news was kind of managed news, wasn't it? It
Yeah.
came from Fort Myers Beach or whatever. You have anything to say about the newspaper or anything that way?
Leslie worked there at a very young age. I don't think there could have been an incorporation without it, because I don't think people were aware of what was going on.
Because Lee County had big plans for Sanibel, as everybody knows.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
were
they wanted another bridge going over to St. James City, and it was going to be like a triangle, and they didn't care about density, they didn't care about height of the buildings or whatever. And when the people of Sanibel kind of caught on to this, and really, I mean, the
Realized.
Island Reporter really got into it and all. It really made everybody realize we do have a cause. And then wasn't it it was in 74 in March, there was an election to put this, a referendum
A referendum
to put
for
this on the November
incorporation.
election, and it actually passed. there were like 86% of the people that turned out in November for this election, and of the 86%, 68% voted for Sanibel to become a city. So, I mean, thank heavens the Gosses are right on Sanibel, because we got the bike paths, I mean, we got the newspaper, and then initially, didn't you have a business down at the Island Marina? Or
We did the Sanibel rental boat business, island boat rental.
yeah.
And so you haven't lived until you've scraped off fish blood with the no-see-ums when they come in. But that's how we started out.
So I have to go back. How did you end up coming here? I mean, what was the...
My sister read about it in 1966 and said, let's go somewhere for spring break. And she lived in Boston, we lived outside of DC, and so we said, yeah. Leslie was three or four, Chauncey was one. And so we came down for spring break. Casabel had just burned down part of it, which was where we were going to stay, but they said, oh, come on. They put us in the laundry, and there were 7 cots. My sister, and then the 4 children, and then myself, and then Porter.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
And we had the best time. We just loved it.
Because
we did
of
nothing
beautiful
but chill.
beaches, yeah, right.
And so we were living in London, and Porter, I guess, had a call from his boss, Don Whitehead, and said, well, we want to retire, where will we go? And Porter said, oh, you have to go to Sanibel, at least go look at it. So they did, and they came and they looked. Fast forward a couple of years, and Porter got very, very ill and had to retire and couldn't work anymore and had to be quiet and couldn't take a northern winter. So where will we go? Sanibel. So he picked up the phone, hey, Don, can you find us a place? And so Ann Bryant, who was a realtor, found us a wonderful little house on Buttonwood.
Oh my goodness.
And so down we came with a Great Dane and a cat and a dog and 4 children. And
You had arrived.
Here we are.
And then you were here, and okay, now what do we do?
Yeah. And they had started the boat business.
Okay.
And then the reporter. But there were other things, like we had play groups. Leslie went to the Sanibel School for 1 term. Well, yeah, half a year. Chauncey was too little, and then we decided maybe Zoe went over to Canterbury for the 2 older ones, but there was just play groups, you know, for here
Right,
with whatever children there were. We started play groups, and each mother would take a different day, which was fun. And so you got to know everybody that had children.
Oh, I bet you did, right.
And
right.
so then, you know, Judy and Workman and Star Thomas really started the Island Preschool, which was met at Bailey's down on the water.
Oh my gosh, no, I didn't know that.
See, that's...
No, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
So what was the Bailey store?
The
was
Bailey
a
store.
preschool for a while?
Was the preschool, so
Oh, I
that's
didn't
where I
know
would
that.
drop off Garrett once it started.
Okay.
And then we did a cookbook. Has anybody seen the Sanibel Captiva cookbook? Oh, it's fabulous.
I have a copy. I do have a copy.
I still
Yeah,
use it.
yeah. From
Find
early
recipes.
days coming here.
Just a really weird aside, but it makes me smile. Last night we were at the fish thing at the sanctuary, and they had the brown sugar bacon as an hors d'oeuvre. And I said, oh, that's Mozella Jordan's. It's in my cookbook. It's called Skinny Quit Bacon. Skinny Quit. Don't know why. Skinny Quit.
She was such a great cook, though.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
How many people were here in 1973? What was the population?
It was probably, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe right around 1,000. There weren't, once the causeway went in 63,
people
it went
came.
from 1,000 to 2,000, it went up from there.
3,000,
Yeah,
yeah.
3,000. Maybe 4,000 people at the very most. But you still had a lot of snowbirds, though, didn't you? Not many year-round people.
No.
No. Tell a little bit about, because the community house seemed to be the center of everything, and maybe Leslie can chime in on this one too, as far as what were the potlucks like, and what kind of entertainment did they have? What did you do for entertainment, social things, or fundraisers? I mean,
We sort of didn't.
okay.
I mean, if you've got 4 children,
Yeah, right.
you're a little tired in the evening. But the potlucks were really fun because you got to meet everybody and talk and
Right.
figure, let's do this, let's do that, or what do we need? It was really it was a community house. I mean, it was community.
Right. Because I
Whatever
know,
issue.
like, the village actually wasn't started till '84, and this was in the '70s. When was Big Arts started? I mean, did they have? I
I'd
just
never
wonder-
seen them before.
the-
I mean, that was totally new.
I
to-
just wonder, before these different organizations started to kind of entertain and fundraise and,
Yeah.
and whatever. So mainly it was just,
I mean, the Big Arts is celebrating their 40th year of operation.
Yes.
About 40 from 2019.
right, so we're doing the 80s, yeah, right. But it must have just been a real relaxed time, and there was lots of fish to be had.
Oh, yeah. Lots of fish. Lots of shells.
Well, the cute story you were telling about where you found your first Genonia, remember you told?
Oh, just the first shell.
Okay.
It was just shelling
Okay.
on the.
But you found it where they were excavating or something?
No, it was on the Cassie Bell
It was
Road.
Cassie Bell, on the Cassie Bell Road,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And I was just talking to Barb Nave, and she said Chuck found her. All the Genonias he found was when they were doing the plumbing and digging for putting the pipes in. Oh, look,
Yeah,
a Genonia.
that's something.
Oh.
Yes,
Came back in the bike path, and that was, what year was that finished? 70 what?
7,
What year was the bike path going from the causeway to the end of area?
It must,
I think
To be finished
76 they
70.
said.
76, 75, 76.
Later than that?
Yeah, because we did remember there was the bicentennial, like, the whole roughly celebrated?
Yeah,
We all started it when it came up to
and we walked it,
the whole thing.
the parade.
The question is, how long after the bike path opened did it take Sanibel to get a bike rental place on Falcon? Was Billy's the first bike rental on Sanibel?
As far as I know, I honestly don't know.
Keith?
Let me, I've got a bike path story.
I hope this is.
Anyway,
Hi, I didn't see you back there. How are you?
I try to stay quiet.
Gee whiz. You are the bike path man.
I moved to Sanibel in 1970, and when the county turned over the roads to the city, we got more of the bike path. But after a while, the city did not look after the bike paths, in my opinion. I went to Gary Price, who was city manager, and Gary said, Keith, there's no understanding or there's no support for a bike path on Sanibel. He said, even your brother-in-law, Francis Bailey, won't give any money to it, and neither will Porter Goss.
Oh.
I agree with you, Mario, but anyway, the thought was there was no interest in the bike path. And it was going downhill. So I said to Gary, I said, it sounds like a political problem to me. He said, yes, it is, because I can't get money for it. I said, well, being Irish, I understand political problem. And so I said, so I asked when I started, anybody remember the Sanibel Bike Club here?
Yeah,
Okay, good, thank you. Anyway, I went out and gathered 300 signatures and $310 bills and created the Sanibel Bike Club. We got yellow t-shirts, showed up to city council, and the city council looks out and sees all the voters there pushing for a bike path. And that's when they started really going after the bike path. That was maybe 74, 75, somewhere in there.
Was it for the rest of it?
Pardon?
Was it for the rest of it?
No, this was to get the thing, the roots were coming out, the trees were
Right, it's
all
not
over.
after it had been built. That
But I
was,
don't-
the city wasn't even born.
Yeah, until 74.
That would be.
Yeah.
What was the date of the city born?
74,
74.
November of 74, yeah.
Well, the city didn't look after the bike path, and, so anyway, not my bypass story.
Well,
I
it's
have
done.
another story, but I'll save it for later.
Okay. It's wonderful, though, that the whole city, everybody was really behind the bike paths because they really knew that that was such an asset. I mean, that's one of the reasons we moved here, because we really loved the bike paths, and it was so easy to get around. And every time you have visitors here, they always want to go out on the bikes, you know, and do that because that's such a unique experience. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question relating to how you found Sanibel. I don't know where I got this information from. I mean, I didn't bring it up, but something about USEPA and the Bay of Pigs invasion and the CIA was involved in USEPA, and that's how they got introduced to Sanibel through USEPA. And I give that in my speech.
She's one of our
It's a
guys.
great story.
This is why.
That is true?
No.
Oh my God. Jan has to sit there and listen to me. I tell that in my speech, but I think that's an interesting story.
Well, and this
I
is
might
a,
say, sir, I did follow him go around the night many times, and he said to me, if you don't tell the absolute truth, they don't know.
well, but that's one of the things I told.
No, that came from a story from a Miami newspaper, I think, a sort of tongue-in-cheek that, oh, what's happened over, all the CIA directors are over on Sanibel now, and it's all started in USEPA and Cuba, and getting them all, I mean, it was sort of a,
So none of that is true?
And that's why I told Muriel I was so glad to have her here today, because this is why we all treasure as docents to get to hear the source from the real person. And so it's not by word of mouth that we actually have the true story now. So we've had this happen on other updates too, where we
Yeah.
thought certain things were definitely, you know, in cement. No, they weren't. We found out about Sanibel changing from a farming to a fishing community. The story we told wasn't entirely true, you know, so we had to alter that a little
Yeah.
bit. So that's why we really appreciate you being here today. Leslie, when you came here and you were small and you went to the Sanibel School out on St. Cap Road, what was it like at the time?
I just remember that smell of hot dirt, you know, hot for the sandy dirt
Mm-hmm.
at recess, and you know, lizards everywhere, and oh, let's get a snake out of the palm tree. And I mean, I come from London via Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden we were walking out of our classroom and eating lunch outside on picnic tables, and it was another world. It was
I
magic.
bet.
Growing up in Ludwood was terrific, and I remember walking to the Seahorse with my dime to get a chocolate bar, a dime.
Yes.
I have nothing, this is not against the Sanibel School, but as Leslie said, we had just come from London, and I think you were third grade, maybe. And Leslie gets off the school bus, which was neat. What was it? Yeah, you and Jody Galt, and, yeah. And I said, hey, how was school today? Great, Mom. What'd you do? We watched Sesame Street. And then we had recess, and I just, you know, said, okay, good. And
Well, and did you have a lot of an influx of kids coming in the winter because their parents were down here or not?
I don't recall.
Okay,
I
okay,
don't speak to that.
okay.
I just, yeah, the kids that I went to bus with, my kids, you know, they were my neighbors.
They were your neighbors and all. And then you knew Mary Bell.
yeah,
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Mary? A lot of people here didn't have the opportunity to meet Mary
I just think
before.
of I don't, Mary Lee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she was wonderful.
She had the seahorse shop.
The seahorse shop.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she, I mean, they opened up down here and she hung in there, I mean, through the storms and everything
Oh, yeah.
else. And yeah, just quite a very progressive lady and really
It was terrific.
did a lot of things. When going back now to Sanibel becoming a city and everything, what were some of the things, you know, when Sanibel first became a city? Anything you really remember that was kind of different that we might like to hear about or anything? It was just, now, Porter was what, the first mayor?
Yeah.
And then he was mayor for the next 2 terms, or was
I
he
can't even
off and on, or
remember.
something like that? And Z Butler?
Z. Butler.
Yeah. What was Z like?
Oh, she was terrific too. But what I remember most is the planning ordinances and going through, getting the people from Chicago that would come and everybody sit around our, even with all the,
Well, you know, we had Barbara Freeman was here in January, and she was working for that planning organization, in Chicago, or Chicago, New York, Chicago, yeah.
Chicago.
And she was talking about, you know, interfacing with city council and everything, and to get
well,
the
this is, yeah, it
to
was
get
amazing
to get the Sanibel plan. I mean,
to get the Sanibel plan formulated.
right, that
Was hard. I mean, it took a lot of discussion, a lot of planning.
sure. I mean,
And that's really what I can remember, is everybody sitting around our
dining room table.
dining room table again, planning, all the guys that would come
right.
through were
Right.
wonderful.
Well, and to come up
And
with the
then-
document you came up with.
What's her name? Eileen Lotz was
Yes.
fabulous, came over from Miami.
Now, I don't know a lot about her. She just was someone who, again, was had a lot of background in
Oh, yeah.
writing something like this and everything, environmentalist and all.
And she and Z were, hit it off. 2 like ladies.
Did you have to do much entertaining? I mean, did people come over from Fort Myers and other cities come over here to Sanibel, or?
I remember having the commissioners for luncheon at Cassibel.
And these were the commissioners who said no to you probably 10 years before. Yeah, 5 years before, and now you're having to entertain them. Yeah.
And just trying to make them happy.
Oh, sure. The name of the game, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
I wonder whether you know, because I'm the cyclist in the room, but have you ever seen the button? I rode my bike, I left my car at home, I should have brought one for you. If there's any activity like the Jordan Marsh ribbon cutting
Yeah.
the other day, everybody that rode their bike got a button. They're wonderful, the big ones and small ones, the kids. And I hope I'll bring a couple with you because you should, anybody, they're wonderful. Our kids love them.
Oh,
Sure. That's
So
neat.
it's interesting, these buttons are very popular and very available.
aha.
So everyone's getting them out, and you don't have one. Oh, no.
Yes.
It's interesting, I just went back in my notes from when Barbara Freeman was here, the law firm was from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I wrote a quote that she said, that Porter said at the time that they were putting the plan together, that he said the reason that they hired that law firm was because we knew that we knew nothing.
Which, that's true.
But they were bright enough to know to get the best.
Yes.
And you know,
And they did.
you always have to have somebody that can fill in the mortar around the bricks, and that was good. That's what it takes. Any other questions? Well, Mariel, we can't thank you enough,
Oh.
and Leslie, thank you for coming too. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.